Are we okay? We got to fucking... We've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and today we're going to be talking about Lorne and the Mirror of the Doctor. We all loved the Doctor saga, where Lorne's insecurities came to the forefront, but it was more than that. The Doctor was genius. It was perfectly created to be the anti-Lorne, to be someone who made the right choices in life, the right career path, and who didn't try to diddle a kid. I mean, come on. So the Doctor, making all of his money, treating Ramona right, having a future, trying to plan for the future, it's everything Lorne isn't, because he's lazy. We talked about him isolating himself. And there's another reason people isolate themselves, and whenever they have to look in a mirror, they can hide away. It's a reason that people hate successful people. The word hater, actual haters. Not just people who dislike the music because they don't like it. These are people who don't like the artist because they're popular and they're successful. Much like Darkside Phil hates everything that's successful, every other creator that he freely admits he's jealous of. What we're talking about Lorne, as I always have to say, I'm making a point here, so just bear with me. I thought I was hot shit until I rolled up in George Gagel's gym right before the first season of The Ultimate Fighter finale. Now, I had just taken first place at World Championships, not in the top 10, because what you have to do is go to all the tournaments, score enough points. It costs a lot of money to travel across the country to earn these points, because there were different classifications of tournaments. So I just practiced all year, went to World Championships, took first in sparring, second in forms. I was very proud of myself. I thought, yeah, I'm a badass. So I go up to interview Rich Franklin before he kicks the shit out of Ken Shamrock. And they welcome me to the gym, give me a free lifetime membership, because I hit it off with George. Next thing you know, I'm on the mat, and I'm trying to use Taekwondo, and I look like a 3-year-old, a toddler out there going against a full-grown adult. Needless to say, I had a wake-up call. Now, I don't know whether or not you know this, but about 10% of people will stay. I'm talking in regular martial arts, so it's even less in MMA and all the disciplines that go into it. 10% of those people make it halfway to black belt. 10% of those people, so we're going down here, make it to black belt. And 1% of all black belts stick around to make it to second degree. Now that's a small percentage. I was a third degree. I loved it. So what is the rambling point I'm making? Well, first off, I spent all those years perfecting, working on my craft, trying to make myself better. I was a chief instructor. I had my own school. I could have turned tail, tucked my tail between my legs, went back to that school, isolated myself, convinced myself I was a fucking badass. But I can't. I'm competitive. I had to keep going. I had to learn. So, Lorne, he had his wake-up calls. If you made it through that rant, God bless you. Lorne had his wake-up calls. He could have easily said, you know what, that's the barometer, here's where I'm at. But he never did. Lost his septic business, stole money, went to Nashville, had this sting, came back, continued to be an epic failure. So when he met the Doctor, who was everything he wasn't, all of his insecurities, all of his misplaced anger, everything was aimed at him because, like Ramona said, he's everything that you're not and everything you will never be. And that's why Lorne got so angry, because he knows it's true. If he were to stop for a second and look in the mirror, really look in the mirror and say, and write down, here's where I'm at. I mentioned that before. Write down, here's where I'm at. Do all of that other stuff I talked about. I think he might make some progress if he paid attention to it. We know he wouldn't. That guy I told you about at work, there are so many of these guys. In their head, if multiple attackers came at them, they could fend them off. Not only fend them off, but kick the shit out of them. Because they've never been in a real situation like that. Not knowing the adrenaline, not knowing the shaking of your arms, the scariness of the whole situation, your body telling you it's smarter to flee. They don't get it. Lorne has never been in a situation where he's earned money, so that's why he's talking about money doesn't matter to me. Looks don't matter to me, because if he looked in the mirror, he had, remember when they said, look at your latest RSO photo? I have. It was like he thought he was really hot. Denial is real. That should be another hint about the video I'm putting out here shortly. Lorne has it in spades. And I just keep thinking about those voicemails that he left. It's more proof about what he sat around all day and thought about. When he would call and leave those long, epic rants about, you say that son of a bitch is so perfect, and then down my ass. So he knows. And he also knows that Ramona knows. So if he's thinking about how he's unworthy all day, in his head, she's thinking about how the doctor is worthy. That's the problem for him. He knows. And he knows that they know. Which is even scarier for somebody like him. He also knows Ramona is better off with the doctor. That's evident. And this is why, partially why, I think he's so dangerous. He knows that if Winnie showed up and he was abusive, and we know he would be, he would know she should go out and find somebody else. But when you're dealing with someone who is so desperate and so clingy and has that relationship OCD and just about everything else under the sun, he's not going to let her go. That would be an admission of failure for him. He can't get Ramona angry. So he knows he's a rage monster. If she was yelling at him like Winnie did, if she was doing all of that craziness, he could justify it. But he couldn't justify anything with Ramona. And he couldn't justify his situation when he looked at the doctor. Now, I like to think of the doctor as a real mirror. Someone who can talk to Lorne. Someone who Lorne would just tell, I'm the greatest of all time. And then the doctor would respond with, here are some questions. I have some questions for you, as he would tell Debbie, desperately trying to get her to call back. You can call me back, I appreciate it. I hate him. The doctor would ask him some questions. He would be like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the baddest motherfucker of them all? And the doctor would laugh and say, I am. And then Lorne would have to list. He would have to sit there in a chair and tell the mirror why he's the best looking, why he's the smartest, why he's the most successful. And he couldn't do it. We know he couldn't do it. And again, the doctor is everything he could never be. The doctor has an actual skill and an actual life. Lorne's never had a relationship. I'm not even sure he's had dates because I think he'd be too scared. So I think he knows the doctor knows how to treat a woman. A diamond ring on your goddamn hand. You think I'm going to play that game. You keep thinking that. He would always threaten to leave her. And at some point, you would think, she keeps telling me I'm abusive. What is she going to lose? She's asked me before. And all I could say is, someone who loves you. And she would explain that it's not love. Lorne doesn't know what love is. He knows what deadly obsession is. He knows what someone who can only focus on someone else. He has nothing. I told you, no hobbies. We know he has no hobbies. He does nothing all day. You know, when Chris asked him, and then I think it was Sloth Cat, or maybe it was... man, I'm drawing a blank, but you know who I'm talking about. Weird Versions. Is this what you do all day with your spare time? Not really. I don't do anything. Because he doesn't do anything. If Ramona had started talking about the doctor being a woodworker, he wouldn't even try to combat that. But if Ramona said she was in woodworking, he'd start wanting to do woodworking. And he'd want to tell her how to do it and everything, even though she's been doing it all her life. The whole vegan thing, where I went vegan because of you. Like, that's supposed to impress somebody. Hey, you're doing this, so I'm doing it too. Look at my devotion. No, you're trying to become that person. You're trying to absorb that person. Maybe you want them to become you. Look, I'm doing this for you. Now you have to accept my abuse and my anger. She talks about the doctor never getting angry. She talks about the doctor not only not getting angry, but being very kind to her and generous and offering his time, which we know Lorne has nothing to offer. He can't offer advice. He can't offer any kind of professional expertise. So when he hears that, it's not your grandmother's doctor, he doesn't understand it. So again, the doctor as a mirror, it just shows him how pathetic he is and how little he has going for him. I wonder sometimes if he thought the doctor walked around in tank tops, that the clothes he wore were normal. I know why he wears tank tops, because he thinks he's Superman, and at one time I guess he had worked out a lot in prison. He got big arms, but the rest of his body looked like jello. So he wears those tank tops to try to show off his arms. I understand that. I used to wear shirts that showed off, my arms, shorts that would show off my legs, especially when I was in the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, when you heard, "Hey, fuck stick," it was pretty much the same thing as when Lorne was in prison and he heard somebody say, "Hey, let me holla at you." It's never going to end well. Those are not things you want to hear. In the Marine Corps, no matter how well you did, if you were a model Marine, you were getting a "hey, fuck stick" every once in a while. My cursing came from the Marine Corps. In some of the social circles I run in, they don't use curse words. But me, sometimes I catch myself doing it because it just became habit to me. And other Marines would do the same. Lorne uses that language because his vocabulary without it is incredibly limited. The things he called Ramona and how Ramona would tell him that the doctor never cursed at her, he realized, oh my God, look at the language I'm using. But I'm not going to conform to that goddamn doctor. I'm going to be who I am, and if she can't handle it, she's not worthy of me. Everything in his head screams, fucking Xavier, I did it again. Everything in his head screams, I am the prize here, and you should be working to keep me. He genuinely thought, we got something good going here. Because again, quality is simply quantity. The longer we spend on the phone screaming and yelling, the closer we are. We're working out our problems. Ramona could have really dug it in. One of my favorite moments is he screamed, "Oh my God, you're topless," and you hear Lorne go, "What?" And then for the next year, I'm exaggerating, he's showing your tits and in your panties. I just don't understand it. Again, when she brought up the size of his penis, that was something else, Lorne. That's something he can't change. That's something he was born with. So he can't lie about that. And that's why it drove him crazy. He can't say, "Oh yeah, well, I can make it big, just like I'm going to make more money in a septic business." And Ramona kept telling him, "Start your business." "Well, I like spending time with you. I like calling you for 10 hours a day in the truck because you're the only one who will tolerate me. And even if I knew you were a catfish, I'm still going to call you and we're going to talk for that long because I have no one else." He starts fights because that's the only way they can keep talking. The doctor could have an intellectual conversation. I know that he supposedly spoke with the doctor one time and he never let that go. The therapist, to some degree, was even worse for Lorne than the doctor. He was speaking logic and facts, and he called out Lorne for actually thinking that Ramona should come up before she listened to those calls and listen to them in person, because we know he was going to try to minimize those. If he had her in person, she couldn't go anywhere, and he could lie and he could try to minimize, and she wouldn't be able to go anywhere. He'd have her. So he wanted her to come up and listen to those calls. If he had to sit in the same room with the doctor and they listened to those calls together, and Lorne had to defend them to Ramona with the doctor in there who would probably just have his head in his hands, that would be the final nail in the coffin. I think Lorne would snap. I don't know if he'd really, I'm going to beat him up. I'm going to beat the doctor up. That's where his mind went because he had nothing else. We've had those friends who, whenever they get to the point where they can't defend themselves intelligently anymore, they go to violence. If you go on Twitter and you watch a bunch of these psycho woke people, I don't necessarily mean liberals, but I'm talking about the woke people. They're about emotion. They're not about logic. Lorne would be a perfect woke asshole. He would be. Because everything is emotion for him. if he can't scream and lie, if he can't tell you, I'm the greatest thing in the entire world, and you don't accept it, he has nothing. I know those people. We've talked about it. They've got big plans right around the corner. And that's Lorne. And he would tell the therapist and the doctor and any other male that came in her life, you have no idea what I'm capable of. I'm going to, if I started my own business, which could easily be debunked by a doctor who probably has his own practice if he's making that much money a year. So Lorne, how are you going to make your money? He wouldn't know. He'd just be sitting there with drool coming out of his mouth. So if Lorne ever was in the same room with the doctor and he was tied to a chair and they were comparing everything all the way down to penis size, even though it was proven he was lacking, he wouldn't see it. So that doctor mirror would be an epic failure for him. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.